Marc Warren, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Let's start with a few of these groovy questions from the Band of Brothers.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
How did you get the part of Blythe, and did you read for a dozen other characters, or did they just see your headshot and go, wow, he looks just like that guy?
No, okay, well, they auditioned for a long time for Band of Brothers, as I'm sure you're aware, and I came in kind of towards the end of the audition process, and I met the casting woman, and I did the audition, and to be honest with you, it didn't really go very well. I think she said your accent's dodgy, and she didn't really give me much to go on, and then so I just went away and thought, oh well, that's that then. And then I think about 2 days later, my agent phoned me and said, "You're through to meet Tom Hanks, and you better get your arse into gear." So that's exactly what I did. So I really prepared for that audition. I probably prepared for that more than I normally would, and it was a case of going to the Athenaeum Hotel in Piccadilly in London. And I remember the morning I listened on a loop. I listened to Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver for some reason. I don't know why, but I listened to it on my iPod or something, like on a loop. And I was absolutely psyched for this audition. And I knew that Tom was going to be there, and I knew that there would be kind of around about 12 to 15 people from LA in the room. And it was going to be scary. So the other thing I did, which I don't normally do, is I visualized the whole process. I visualized walking in, meeting him. I visualized it going really, really well, nice. And I visualized walking out. And then what actually happened was I walked into the Athenaeum, and I didn't have to wait at all. I went straight in, and there was just this door. And I knew that Tom was going to be on the other side of it, and it was scary. But so the door opened, and there he was, and he was all bearded up because he was doing that. What was he doing? Castaway thing. Yeah. And immediately out of all the people, he kind of materialised first, and he came up to me, and he said, "It's great to meet you, Mark." And I said, do you know what, Tom? I said, "I've walked straight in here off the street. I've not had to wait." I said, "This is exactly how I like it." And he said, "Well, this is how we like to do it for you, Mark." And I said, "Great, that's how I love it." And for some reason they all laughed at that, and I thought, this is good. It's going well so far. And he sat me down, and he said, "This is the guy who's going to read with you," and there was just a lot of people, and I think with this audition it was always going to be about the accent and whether the accent worked, and I just remember he said, "Look, in your own time, in this very surreal situation, start when you're ready." And I remember that what I did was I looked up at the ceiling for about 45 seconds, which is kind of what I do in the opening of the episode, when I'm like looking up into the sky. And I did that, and then I looked down to the actor who I was going to do the scene with, and I opened my mouth and I said the first line, and as soon as I said the first line, I knew I was going to nail it. And it's just weird like that. Sometimes you say it and it all goes wrong, and other times you just know that it's going to work. And I just kind of knew it was going to work. And I did the scene, and I remember right at the very end, that kind of the tear came down my eye, and there was a big silence, and I think it was probably the best audition I'd ever done. And Tom said, "That was absolutely fantastic." And I said to him, "I guess that's what all the nerves were for." And I walked out onto the street, onto Piccadilly, and I just sobbed for 10 minutes. I mean, I never do. I mean, I go for auditions all the time. I've been acting for a long time, and I've never done that before or since. And I phoned my mum up, and I sobbed for 10 minutes because I think I was so wound up. I was so psyched up for it. and emotionally kind of, I don't know, ready for it, I guess. And on this occasion it worked out, you know. And if I'd have gone in 10 minutes later, I might have done the worst audition of my life. But on that day, it was my day, so I was lucky. And I think 2 days later, I got the phone call, and they said that they're offering it to you. I think they said that the only other part that they've cast is Damian Lewis, and I think they said you're the second one, and that was it. So.
Wow, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I tell you, the main thing I thought was, I just thought, you know, there's a very, very good chance that Spielberg will see this tape, and I just thought, I just don't want to mess it up. I don't want to let myself down, and I thought if he's going to watch it, then, you know, just do your best. And the very fact that they offered it to me, I thought, well, you know, it did go as good as I thought it went. So that was that.
After you were told this, and you got the part, how did you prepare to play Albert? Because we know that he actually, well, there's some weird stuff going on, but we know that he actually passed away in '67, which is different than what we see in the book and the series. But did you have an opportunity to speak with any of the family, or did you just talk to the friends, or were you just straight out of the book? How did you prepare to be Albert Blithe?
I remember looking at the basics and looking in the book about him, and you know, so I actually didn't know it was 1967 he died. What do you know exactly when it was?
Actually, we have his son joining us on the phone right now. He could probably tell us a little more about it. Gordon, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Mark. How you doing? First off, I want to say you did a really good job portraying my dad, and you know, I really respect that. And I don't know if you know this or not, but you did email me a few years back and discussing about my dad, which, you know, he died in '67. How did you feel about portraying my dad in that aspect?
Well, I just want to say it's really nice to talk to you, Gordon. It's I mean, all I can say was it was an amazing part. I mean, you know, it was your dad, and I was portraying somebody, you know, real, but it was also, you know, it was a character to portray, and it was kind of extraordinary, you know, because he was a very kind of, I mean, the way I played it was like he was a very existential kind of character, and he was just trying to work out what it was all about, and in that sense, it was a real gift, you know, to kind of perform that. What, can you just tell me when in 1967 he died?
Yeah, he died in December 17th, 1967. He was on active duty. He was stationed in Germany at the time. He had 18 months to go till he retired. Last time I seen him was in June of '67. Then he went ahead and went to Germany, and this, you know, he made it only 6 months, and, you know, basically he drank himself to death. You know, it was the worst time of my life when my mom and myself was notified that he died. We buried him at Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. You know, he had full military honors, and you know, besides all that, he was pretty highly decorated. You know, by when he died, he earned the Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, 3 Bronze Stars, another presidential citation on top of the one that he earned in Easy Company. He was with the 187th Airborne Parachute Regiment when he went to Korea, and he earned another 2 Purple Hearts and the Silver Star in Korea. And by the time he got stationed in Germany, he was so beat up from World War II and Korea, he just, you know, he had an office job as an operations sergeant, and you know, like I said, you know, he didn't make his 18 months. And you know, being, you know, him dying a week before Christmas, it was really just too much to handle for me and my mom. And now here I sit, you know, I'm the only spokesman for my dad, and you know, it gets pretty overwhelming at times. I went to the Easy Company reunion last October, and it was very emotional, very overwhelming. and my dad left me a legacy and responsibility, and I'm telling you, it gets so overwhelming at times, Mark. It really, really does.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing to hear that.
But I'm it just really makes my day, to talk to you, and you really did a excellent job. I could say that. And, I've seen Band of Brothers more times than I want to think, and I can't watch it no more, But you really did a fabulous job of portraying my dad, and I give you a good old pat on the back. And I'm this old country boy from North Carolina. That's where I was born. My dad was with the 82nd. I do have to laugh about this because when you portrayed my dad, you had a bit of a southern accent. And my dad was from Philadelphia, and he had a deep Pennsylvania accent.
I wouldn't have been very good at that accent.
Oh yeah, a Pennsylvania accent. You can't. There's no way of duplicating it. When you're born in Pennsylvania, you got the accent, and you can't duplicate it. That's what part of me is. My dad is about. I got that Pennsylvania attitude, and us Pennsylvanians, we hit it off. Just like Bill Garner, when I met him, we clicked right away. And Bill Garner is one hell of a guy, and he had some good stories to tell me. So did Ed Tipper. They all liked my dad. That was the only thing. That was a lot of what I heard from my dad's war buddies. You couldn't help but like Al Blithe.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm getting kind of choked up here, so you gotta excuse me.
That's all right.
That's all right, Gordon.
That's all right.
It's been an amazing story just listening to you guys talk. That is absolutely beautiful.
And while we have you here, Gordon, I mean, you said you're the spokesperson, for your father. I mean, is there anything, that you want to say? I mean, to everyone listening, interested in knowing more about him?
Well, I'll tell you this, and he would probably say the same thing, and he would probably shy away from all this spotlight business with Band of Brothers, and he would just say, I did what I wanted to do. I did what I loved to do, and that was being a paratrooper and a soldier. And he would say, I'm not a hero by a long shot. This is what I wanted to do. This was my life, And he was happy doing it. My mother and I, we were just one little small happy Army family, He just did what he wanted to do. My dad wasn't no hero. He was just a paratrooper and soldier.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And Mark, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, sir.
Well, it is for me as well. It's a real honor to speak to you. And it's a real honor, Gordon. It really is.
It's been a pleasure, Mark. It certainly has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and you have a nice day, Mark, and to the rest of you, too, it was a pleasure myself speaking to you.
Well, thank you for calling in, Gordon. We appreciate it.
Okay, y'all have a nice one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. That was a surprise. It's I didn't know his dad died in 1967, and as I say, that was the year I was born, so he died. I was about 5 months old when he died, so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I understand, you didn't go through the boot camp experience. Is that correct?
No, I didn't. I was one of the few that didn't because Blythe was, well, like I said, he was kind of an existential kind of guy. He was a bit of a loner, and by that very fact, they didn't really want me mingling with everybody. And thank you that they didn't, because that boot camp would have killed me. Because I'm a bit of a wuss, I'm not like some of those guys. Those guys, there was some tough guys in that group, and I don't like, I don't like big groups of guys anyway. So the actual thought of being on boot camp and having sleep deprivation and having Captain Dale die shouting at you 24/7, that wouldn't have been my cup of tea. So,
do you have a Dale Dye impersonation?
No. But he was something else, he was something else. I've never really met anybody like him. He was by the end, he was kind of lovely, but well, I don't know about lovely, but he was a scary guy. And some of the guys were just so confident with him. But I wasn't. I mean, it was a bit like when I was at school, you know, I kind of sat back and just let everybody get on with it. And, but he, you know, it was the thing, you know, if you called your weapon a gun, you know, he'd get you down doing 50 press-ups, you know. I do remember doing a scene, and I had a lovely makeup lady. Her name was Sue, and I think I don't want to say too much, but you know, I think Dale likes Sue. You know, I'm not. There was nothing went on. I'm not incriminating Dale in any way, but you know, she was a beautiful lady, and I remember doing a scene with Damien Lewis, where I was firing at the German on the hill, and Damien's saying, "Let him have it, Blithe. Let him have it, Blithe." And I remember this rifle really, you know, it was so cold, and the metal, and it really hurt your hands, you know, like reloading it and doing everything, and you just kind of like would pinch your skin. And I remember Dale coming up to me and like, you know, giving me it full on about, you know, I need to do it quicker and whatever. And I remember my makeup woman saying to him, "Stop shouting at him, he's doing his best." And it wasn't very soldier-like from me. It wasn't very macho from me. Stop shouting at him, he's doing his best. And I think he smiled because, you know, I think he quite liked her, so he smiled, and I kind of got away with it. But no, I kind of kept out of his way, you know. I mean, I'd see him towards the end of the shoot. I saw him like in a pub, you know, and he was an amazing guy. I mean, all those guys are incredible. You know, and those guys who served in Vietnam, they were extraordinary people, you know. You have to forgive me because I can't remember all their names, but you know, I know that one of them was he was like a jungle, you know, he worked in the jungle, and he was a real top guy in the Vietnam War, and he did a lot of jungle stuff. And I remember doing the scene when I got my neck blown out, and he came up to me at the end, and he just said, "You did a good job." And it was just the way he said it to me. He was very emotional, and I just thought, a guy like that who's seen all that he's seen, you know, and just for him to just come up and say that to me, it kind of really meant a lot, because
he's seen the real thing, and if you're showing him, if he's telling you did a good job, that's high accolades, you know.
That's what I'm saying. He did it in a very kind of subtle way, you know, but it was very, very powerful. If he'd have said like 1,000 words, it wouldn't have been as powerful as just the very little that he said. You know? It was very impacting on me. So yeah,
you had some rifle training, I'm guessing, and some stuff, working out and stuff like that. But you really didn't have to break in your boots or, you know, do any of the hard stuff. Did you get to steal any of that?
Well, I've still got my boots.
Oh, you do? Fantastic.
Yeah, I got my Kokoran jump boots. They're great, you know. And then a few years later, I got a black pair as well. And they're a great boot. You know, whenever you wear those boots, everybody asks you about the boots. So I got to keep those. I guess I did some basic weapon training. Is it the M1 rifle? Was that right?
Yeah.
Or some of the guys probably showed me, you know, what to do after that. But I mean, one of them, I'm sure somebody must have shown me what to do. But I didn't do all the training, you know. So I guess straight from the start, I felt like a bit of a, you know, like I wasn't part of it. And the first, you know, I was in the first episode, but I was there every day from the crack of dawn, and it was absolutely freezing. And if you see me in the first episode, I'm in the first episode for about half a second, you know, and I was in there every day. And I have to tell you, at one point I thought, I'm going to do a runner. I can't stand this. I hate this job. That's what I was thinking. I thought, this is the hardest job I've ever done. This is like being a soldier, and I just can't do it. I mean, it was the hardest gig I'd ever done. But when it actually came to my episode, I don't know. It changed. It changed because it was such an amazing part, and suddenly to be, the center of attention of this incredible filming process, that they were making, and it was awesome. It was really overpowering, and I suddenly felt incredibly fortunate. So. Well,
now you mentioned Dexter and Damien. Are you still close with those guys, or are you close with those guys?
Yeah, and Matthew Leach, and but yeah, no, I became good pals with Damien after that. We kind of hung out a lot after that, and Dexter, Dexter I've known for a long time, and he's actually just directed his first film, and I was in that film. We shot that a couple of months ago, so it's called Wild Bill. So I went and did a couple of days on his first feature, which was great. So, and I think it's shaping up to be a really nice film. So, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to check that out. Joining us right now, though, via the Skype, is our very own producer, Ross Owen. Ross, are you there?
Hello. Hi. Can everybody hear me?
I thought you were going to be American.
I'm from Bonnie, Scotland, Mark. It's crazy, the internet, you see, because I'm sitting in Scotland, the guys are in Kansas City, and you're somewhere in England right now, so it's marvellous that we can do this, isn't it?
It is. It's very nice, very nice. Yeah, it's good.
Mark, I just wanted to ask you, when you get, we know you in the UK, particularly from lots of other TV shows and from movies like Green Street. How often do you get recognised as Blithe?
Quite, a fair amount. Probably not as much as, like you said, like Green Street or Hustle and things like that. But I think I remember the first time I went to LA. I've only been to LA a few times, but the first time I went, I went through, the immigration check or whatever it was, where you get, you have to, you hand your passport in to these really big guys. And I remember handing it in to the guy, and he looked at me, and I thought, I'm not going to get in. I really thought he was going to turn me back and send me back to London. And at that point he said, "Are you Albert Blithe?" And as soon as he said that, I thought, I'm going to have a great time in LA, and I did. So, yeah. But no, I get it. I get it every now and again. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did you have another episode that you liked watching?
Well, I'm going to tell you something now, and you're going to find it a bit shocking. But I've never watched Band of Brothers. I saw some. I've seen my episode. I watched the first episode. I didn't watch the second one, and I'd never seen it beyond that. So from 4 onwards, I never saw it. In terms of favourite stuff, I don't know. I guess one of a big scene was the scene with Damien when I went blind, and I know that Tom Hanks was that they talked about that being. They talked about that being a scene that they didn't think would work, and then that they were really pleased that it did work. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I had some amazing scenes, some incredible set pieces. I really loved it when he shot the German guy, and the helmet went down, and then he went to follow the trail. He follows the blood trail, and he picks out the Edelweiss from him, and he puts it in his lapel. That's probably one of my favourite bits. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's a very it's a very beautiful scene. So
well, and actually that was I believe was going to be our next caller's question. Jenny, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. How do you think playing the role of Blithe has affected your career?
Well, I don't think it did me any harm. It was. I think the way I think about it is at the end of my career, whenever that is, hopefully in a long time, I think that when I look back on it, Band of Brothers will be one of those standout. Will be one of those standout moments. I mean, it's one of the biggest productions I've ever been involved, and it was just incredibly impacting. And every time I watch it, it does kind of blow me away and amazes me. But I tell you, the other weird thing was, which I don't know if you remember, but when my episode went out, it was straight after 9/11, and episode 3 was the first episode after 9/11, and I always presumed that nobody would watch it, and I don't know, but I always presume nobody's going to watch anything I'm in, so that's just the way I am. but it's in answer to the question, it's been amazing, and the people who've seen it and have been deeply affected by it, they let that be known, and it's lovely, it's very humbling. So I was very, very fortunate. It was an amazing experience. Although it was a very hard experience, but looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. So.
All right, excellent. Jenny, thanks very much for calling. We always appreciate hearing from you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Now, that brings up another question that I've I want to ask you. Since you were one of the older guys involved in this production, who wasn't playing a colonel or general, how did you perceive the war before Band of Brothers? I mean, obviously, a lot of it took place in y'all's backyard. Did you study enough history, or did you have a good idea of what was going on?
No, I had no idea what was going on. I had a very basic. I mean, I looked at the book, and but no, I was no aficionado on the war or history, and so the answer to that would be no.
Now, after you shot Band of Brothers, did it change your perceptions on the war at all?
I've got to be honest. No, probably not. Probably not. I mean, I guess what it showed me was that I wasn't cut out to be a soldier, and it's it takes. It's a different cut of guy, who makes it as a soldier. If I'd have been in combat, I don't know. I mean, I remember Dale Dye saying that you train a guy up, and he might be fantastic in training, he might do everything right, but when he's out in the field, you never know how he's going to react. And I mean, I'll never know how I would have reacted in combat. So, but I can tell you that they do an incredibly difficult job, and there's not a lot of luxury in it. It's cold, and it's scary. I mean, when we were doing those things with bombs blowing up and bullets going everywhere, you didn't have to act. I mean, it was absolutely terrifying. It was terrifying. The special effects on it were phenomenal, and there was no acting required, really. It was scary. It was really scary making it. So.
Now, we have a listener from Sweden. She wants to know if if being in the Band of Brothers changed the way you worked on or approached movie roles at all.
I don't think it changed anything. No, everything else after it was a lot easier.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything was a lot easier. Yeah, it's just an incredible experience, working with that kind of filmmaker, when you're working with that, like an outfit that, that Spielberg's involved in. It's just phenomenal. The whole setup of the camera and the production is it's extraordinary. I mean, Mikhail Solomon was the director of my episode, and I know that he was one of Spielberg's favorite DOPs. And you're just working with masters of their craft, and so that's an invaluable experience.
Did you think that when you were making this, that it would still be as poignant and as well received 10 years after the fact?
I didn't really think about it. I don't tend to think about things like that. I don't tend to read a lot about projects. I tend to just do them and forget about them, to be honest. Because I find that if I hang on to stuff, it kind of comes back and bites me on the bum later. So I just find you just have to let stuff go. So that's just my general philosophy of work. Otherwise, you just end up, even more self-obsessed and thinking about everything you've done. And I don't know, it just never makes me a very happy bunny doing that. So I just kind of do it, and I just try and forget about it, But I mean, don't get me wrong. Every now and again, I might get the episode out and show it to somebody, and feel incredibly proud of it. And it reminds, just in terms of things, memorable things. I don't know if that's of interest to you, but
Always.
Three things kind of stand out to me. I remember, we used to practice the drill, the marching and the singing the songs, Mama, Mama, can you see? All that kind of stuff, And Dale would do it, and we'd all reply to him, and I remember practicing this drill over and over and over again, and it was cold, and we kind of didn't want to do it, and but one day after lunch, all the cameras were set up down the end, and there was about 100, 200 people down the end of this runway, and Dale marched us onto set, and we knew we were being filmed, and for the first time we suddenly became a unit as one, and we marched as one, and it's kind of making me go tingly now thinking about it. It was a profound experience, because I'd never really experienced that before. You just got all these individuals and they become one unit, and and I think we did it for Dale. We did it as best as we could for him, and we knew it was being filmed. And when it finished, Dale gathered us all together and he said, "Men, you made me very proud," and it was a really extraordinary moment. And another time, it was after lunch, and I was shooting episode 3, and Mikhail, and I was just standing waiting to get my makeup done, and in the distance I saw like an entourage of guys coming onto set, and in the front was this guy who had a cap, like a baseball cap, and I was looking at him, and then I suddenly realized it was Steven Spielberg, and I'd never seen him before. And Mikhail Solomon, the director, came up to me and he said, "I just want you to know that Steven's seen the rushes for this week, what you've been doing this week, and he loves what you're doing." And I have to say that just blew my mind, that that Spielberg had actually sat and watched something that I was doing, and then had made that comment. I think I must have phoned everybody that I knew up that night and told them that. And then I had to go and get my makeup done, and I sat in Spielberg's high chair that had his name on it, and had my makeup done. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. And the last thing, I saw Tom Hanks at the audition, and I never saw Tom all the way through the filming process. I think Tom directed episode 5. I had to come back and do some reshoots, and on my very, very last day of filming, we were just shooting a scene where, I think it was a scene where I kind of went blind, like a gunshot went off and I went blind, and I finished that, and they took me back in a Jeep, and they took me back to the base camp, and as we were going, I was sitting in the back and I had all my kit on, and in the distance I could see another unit filming, and I said, "Who's filming over there?" And they told me that Tom was directing that episode, and there was the whole unit, and there was a lot of guys out there. There was, I don't know, 50 to 100 guys out there, and I said, "Look, can I get out? Because I'd like to go and see him. I'd like to go and talk to Tom, because I'd never seen him since the audition." And so I got out the back of the Jeep, and in the distance was all these guys filming, and I was walking along this really very very big field, and I'd got my helmet, and I was walking along, and I said to them, which one's Tom, because they were that far away, and they said he's in the red coat. So I was kind of heading for this guy in the red coat, and as I was halfway across the field, the guy in the red coat, Tom, kind of looked my way, and then he started waving.
Nice.
And typical me, I stopped and looked behind me. I wondered who he was waving at, but he was waving at me. So I walked up to him, and and he's very tall and incredibly charismatic, and he gave me 5 minutes of his time, and he told me what he thought of me, and it was really really extraordinary. And Damien came over. When you're in the presence of a guy like that, and you get 5 minutes their time, it's I don't know, it's special. It doesn't happen very often, and it's very powerful. They're very charismatic, and he was very generous to me. He's called his son over, and he said, "This is Blythe that I was telling you about," and he's talking to his son about me, and his son brought over a little wooden rifle, and I had a little chat with his son, and that was it. And then I went, and that was the end of my Band of Brothers experience. But it was wonderful in that it was sandwiched, with that it started with Tom Hanks and it ended with him, so that was kind of wonderful. So
I love the remembrance stories, man. That's cool. I want to ask you the main question, the end of the interview question. How would you sum up the men you portrayed, the real men of Easy Company?
I just think, I'll never know what the real Albert Blithe was like as a man, and Gordon will tell us that, and he was obviously highly decorated. He was a very brave man, but within the piece, he was used to portray somebody who saw the horror of war, and for me it was kind of like a spiritual experience, and as he was like looking up at the beginning, he might be looking for like the parachute, or he might be looking for, I don't know, God or whatever he's looking for, for some meaning to explain why he was in this terrible place. And yeah, so that's it.
I just want to say how happy I am that you were able to join us today, and I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule and spending an hour with us here at Black Sky. I think it's what you guys have built. Not only has lasted 10 years, but every year that it comes on HBO on the replays, you garner another generation of watchers. So it's a perfect piece of cinematography, and I applaud you, and I also thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, you're very generous, and thank you for having me on the show. And it was a real treat and an honour to speak to Gordon as well. So I'd like to send all my best and my love out to him, and thank you for everybody who's interested and who listened. So thank you very much.
Marc Warren, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Marc. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Jenna.
All right, have a great afternoon. Evening, sorry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.